Hey, what's going on, everyone? Today we're going to talk about one of the biggest updates Monster Hunter Wilds has received so far, and that's update 1.030.0110, which also happens to bring in the Final Fantasy XIV collaboration event that people have been waiting on for months. This is not just your average patch where they smooth out a few things here and there. This is a massive content drop with new monsters, new quests, event-specific features, improvements to systems, and even some festival-themed additions. There's so much to cover, and I want to walk you through all of it step by step, almost like we're having a conversation about what this means for players now and in the long run. And because there's a ton to unpack, I'm going to keep it conversational, not overly technical, but at the same time detailed enough so that if you haven't logged into the game yet, you'll know exactly what to expect when you load it up. First of all, let's talk about the scale of this update. Depending on what platform you're on, you're looking at a fairly hefty download. On PlayStation 5, it's around 5 gigabytes. On Xbox Series X and S, it's a little lighter at about 4 gigabytes. And on PC, it's roughly the same. But if you're using the high-resolution texture pack, it could go up to 8 gigabytes. So definitely make sure you have space cleared out because Monster Hunter patches don't just drop files, they need extra room for unpacking during installation. I bring that up because I know how frustrating it is when you think you're ready to play and suddenly your system is yelling at you that you don't have enough storage. Now, the real highlight of this update is, of course, the Final Fantasy XIV crossover content. If you've been following Capcom's collab history, you already know they love to bring in wild events with other franchises, but this one feels like something special because of how many systems and monsters it touches. The most obvious addition is Omega Planetes, a brand new boss monster inspired by Final Fantasy XIV. This thing isn't just a simple reskin or a half-baked crossover. It's an actual high-end fight with mechanics, visuals, and a level of difficulty that's going to push hunters who think they're already at the top of their game. To even unlock this fight, you'll need to be hunter rank 41 or higher, so it's not something for brand new players. Then, once you complete the initial mission, a special 9-star extreme difficulty version opens up, and that's reserved for those who are HR 100 and above. That means this fight is going to be a real test, one that's likely going to demand full preparation, strong gear, and teamwork if you're taking it on with a squad. And Omega Planetes isn't the only thing that's new here. Another addition to the roster is a Nursilla variant that comes in through the extra missions as well. I know some of you probably weren't expecting Nursilla to get more attention, but Capcom clearly had plans for it, and this new form offers some refreshing challenges, especially for players who have been farming the usual pool of tempered monsters over and over. And speaking of tempered monsters, Lagiacrus is back in action here too, both in its normal form and its tempered version, which shows up in the Wounded Hollow once you've hit HR 100. Lagiacrus fans have been asking for a proper return for a long time, and seeing it not just included, but also having tempered encounters makes it feel like Capcom is listening to the community. Now, beyond the new monsters, this update has also introduced new quests that are structured a little differently than what we're used to. There are now quests that actually target packs of monsters, meaning instead of just focusing on one big target, you're going to have to deal with multiple threats at once. This shakes up the formula and makes you rethink how you approach things like gear loadouts, traps, and even party coordination. It's small adjustments like this that breathe life into a game that people sink hundreds of hours into. On the cosmetic and feature side, there's quite a lot packed into this update as well. For starters, new equipment has been added, which obviously means new armor sets and weapon designs that tie directly into the Final Fantasy XIV event. On top of that, there are new skills available, and these aren't just rehashed versions of what we already had. They actually give you more options for building out specific playstyles. You'll also find new pendants, stickers, and gestures, which might sound like fluff, but for players who love to show off personality in the Gathering Hub or while flexing after a hunt, these things matter. One of the coolest quality of life additions is something called the Equipment Appearance Set. This shows up under your loadout menu, and what it basically does is let you save and view loadouts with their appearance customizations intact. So if you're the type player who mixes and matches transmog-style setups, you don't have to rebuild your look every single time. It's a small touch, but it's one that respects the time players put into their aesthetic choices. Speaking of the hub, there's also been some UI work done. One example is in the bowgun customization menu. Before, certain icons had very similar colors, which could get confusing, but now those colors have been adjusted so you can immediately tell them apart. Again, small detail, but it shows that Capcom is looking at how players interact with menus and making changes to keep everything clean and readable. Now, I want to shift focus to the Festival of Accord, which is part of the seasonal event content bundled into this patch. This festival runs from October 22nd to November 12th, 2025, and it transforms the atmosphere of the game in some fun ways. During the event, the handler gets a new outfit, the Grand Hub is decorated differently, the Diva's song list expands, the canteen offers new themed meals, and even side activities like barrel bowling get their own twists with unique bombs. These kinds of limited time festivals aren't just about cosmetics. They give you reasons to log in consistently, keep you in the loop with special quests, and sometimes even hand out exclusive gear you can't get anywhere else. And since I mentioned the Divas songs, it's worth noting that even outside the festival, the Divas song list has been permanently updated, which is a nice touch for anyone who enjoys the social side of the Gathering Hub. Music may not affect gameplay directly, but it does shape the mood and feel of the hub, so having fresh tracks is a win. Another thing I really appreciate about this patch is that it doesn't just throw a bunch of content at us without considering progression. Everything is carefully gated behind specific hunter ranks, so if you're newer, you still have clear goals to work toward. HR 41 is your first big milestone if you want to access the crossover content, and HR 100 is where the truly hardcore fights and tempered monsters start unlocking. That kind of structure keeps both mid-tier and high-tier players engaged. But here's the thing. This update isn't just about the flashy crossover. It's also about keeping Monster Hunter Wilds healthy as a long-term game. The addition of new quests, new cosmetic options, and even little things like pop-up camp gear adjustments make the experience feel polished and evolving. Every time we get one of these patches, the game feels refreshed, and 1.030.0110 really nails that feeling of progression and reward. Now let's talk about the fights themselves, because I know that's what a lot of you care about. Omega Planetes from Early Impressions is not just a straight DPS check, it has mechanics that pull inspiration from Final Fantasy XIV raids. Expect to see attacks that require proper positioning, awareness of environmental hazards, and timing that punishes hunters who just try to brute force their way through. This fight feels like a love letter to both communities. It honors the raid culture of FFXIV while still staying true to Monster Hunter's combat system. If you're used to farming tempered monsters solo and think this will be a cakewalk, you might be in for a surprise. As for the return of Lagiacrus, that's a nostalgic win. Lagiacrus is one of those monsters that carries legacy status in the franchise, and getting to fight both regular and tempered forms is huge. It fills a nice gap in the monster roster and gives hunters new reasons to grind out water element gear. Plus, it's going to test hunters in ways that other monsters don't, given Lagiacrus' unique moveset and elemental coverage. Looking at all of this together, it's pretty clear that Update 1.030.0110 is more than just another seasonal refresh. It's a statement patch, one that says Monster Hunter Wilds is committed to big collaborations, new high-level content, and ongoing community engagement. It manages to blend nostalgia, challenge, and fan service in a way that only Capcom really seems to nail with this series. And one more detail worth pointing out, on PlayStation 5 specifically, you might see 2 downloads when you're updating. The first one brings you to 1.030,000, and then a follow-up patch takes you to 1.030.0110. Don't panic if you see that happening. It's just part of how the update rolled out on that system.